and today I'm going to be sharing with you some tips on using these layering guides from We Are Memory Keepers. So these layering guides are one of my absolute favorite tools to use in my craft room for scrapbooking, and I've had a few people ask me about these guides, and one of my viewers asked if I could share some tips. So I thought I would create this video and hopefully share some information that might help you if you're having trouble using these guides, because they do take some time to learn and you need to practice to get good results. So I am very challenged when it comes to using a paper trimmer to create mats and layers, and I have such a hard time with cutting things evenly. So when I saw these at Tuesday mornings, I decided to pick them up, and I'm so happy that I did. It did take some time for me to learn to use them, and at first I actually didn't like them. I wasn't very successful the first few times I tried them out, and but because I was so frustrated with trying to use my paper trimmer to create mats, I just kept trying to use these layering guides until I learned how to use them. And the more I use them, the easier it gets, and now I don't think I would want to scrapbook without them. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing some tips on using these layering guides, but if you've not seen these before, you might be wondering what they are and what you use them for. So I will start off by giving you just a little bit of information and kind of an overview of what they're used for. So these layering guides can be used to create mats and for layering with your scrapbook layouts. And there are 3 guides in this set, and they have 10 measurements. So 2 of these guides have 4 measurements on each guide. And you can see here, these 2 guides have 2 measurements on this side, and then 2 more measurements on this side. And then this other guide has only 1 measurement on either side. So there's 10 altogether, and they range from 1/16 of an inch all the way up to 1 inch. So you can create borders or mats with each one of those measurements. So these layering guides have a catch lip system, which allows you to pretty much mat anything without measuring, which is awesome. And you can just pick up this layering guide, select which measurement you want to use, and then you use this craft blade or an X-Acto knife and cut around your picture or the paper or whatever you're trying to mat. So We Are Memory Keepers also sells the mini layering guides, which comes in a set of 2, and I think those are more suited for card making because they're shorter. And if you're a scrapbooker, I would definitely recommend getting the layering guides and not the mini layering guides. So I did get mine from Tuesday mornings, but they also have them available at Amazon and scrapbook.com and other places online. So I will leave some links in the description below if you're interested in checking these out. And one of the things I love about using these layering guides is that you can create perfect mats for your photos without having to measure. So if you don't like to measure things, these are awesome. So let me go ahead and show you a couple of examples of what you can do with these layering guides. So I'm going to start off by showing you a layout I did recently where I created lots of different mats for this picture. And so I started off here with a picture of my little dog Lilybell, and I matted it with I think this is a 1/8 inch white cardstock, and then a 1/16 inch black cardstock. And then I don't really remember what this one is, but it's probably like maybe 5/8 of an inch. And then here's another one that maybe looks like 1/4 of an inch. I'm not exactly sure what the measurements are, but you can see that you can do all different sizes of mats. Here's another one with a 1/16 inch of black cardstock. And I can't do that with a paper trimmer. I never can get it even. And even if I can get the papers even, when I try to glue them together, they don't, I get them crooked. So I think this works so much better with creating layers, and I just love using them. So let me share with you another example of creating a mat. This is another one that I did, another layout just recently, where I created a 1/8 inch, this is a 1/8 inch white cardstock mat, and then I used this green color cardstock and I created a 1/16 inch mat. And let me see if I can get this closer so you can kind of get a look at how that the borders come out. But it's really even, and you can get very, very even borders. And if you're somebody that likes to have things straight and you don't like it if it's crooked, then these work really, really well. So let me share with you a couple other things here. I have also, you can do embellishments. It's not just for photos. If you want to do something where you want to layer an embellishment, and make a mat under something, as long as it's a square or a rectangle, you can use these layering guides and make different mats to go under your embellishments. And so I used some mirror cardstock, and I took this little cutout that I cut out from some paper, and I just kind of made it look a little bit more special by adding this gold mat underneath it. Okay, so now that you kind of know what they are and what you can use them for, let's go ahead and look at some of the things that you need to know in order to get started with using them. Okay, so let me grab some scrap pieces of paper and some photos and other things, and we'll try these layering guides out together. And then I will also give you some tips on things that you can do if you're having problems getting these layering guides to catch onto your papers. So I'm going to grab this stack of stuff here that I have, and I'm going to start off by just doing a very simple layer underneath the photo. I'm going to mat a picture, and I just wanted to share with you really quick though, these are two pictures that I've already matted. This one has a 1/8 inch layer under it, and it's just this white cardstock. And then I did this one here, which has a 1/16 inch layer with the white cardstock. And then I did a 1/4 inch layer with this burgundy colored cardstock. And so these are probably my 3 favorite measurements to use on the guides. I like these 3 for matting photos, but I do use some of the bigger ones, especially when I am layering even more. So if I was to take this photo and maybe put another pattern paper behind it, I might use a 1/2 inch or 5/8 of an inch or one of the bigger sizes to go underneath this photo. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do a basic mat. I'll use this little picture of my dog Bella. She was in the window in my craft room hunting lizards, and the lizard was teasing her because it was up there on the glass, and she was going crazy trying to catch that lizard. So I actually did a scrapbook page for this, and I'm working on a scrapbook process video for it, which I'm hoping I'll have done soon. But this was an extra picture that I had left over. So let's go ahead and try to mat this picture. So I'm going to get just a piece of white cardstock, and I think this probably should work here. And you just want to have a piece big enough that you have room to mat your picture with whatever size layering guide you're going to use. So I'm going to go ahead and use the 1/8 inch. So let me go ahead and find that. And so here's the 1/8 inch layering guide, and let's see if you can see the measurement there. And so I'm going to use this side of the guide. Now you'll notice that there's a black dotted line, and that is where the catch lip place is on the ruler. And let me see if I can bring this photo up, and if I have the photo and I put the layering guide up against the photo, it's going to catch on that lip. And that lip is right there where that black dotted line is. So one of my first tips for you guys is if you're having a lot of trouble getting your photo or your paper to catch on this lip, you could just line it up visually with that dotted line and use that instead. And I have done that before. Sometimes if you have a very thin piece of paper or a very thin photo, it might be very difficult to get the guide to catch onto the edge of the photo or the paper. And sometimes I just use that as a visual guide. Now it doesn't go all the way down the ruler, but you can kind of see the line to follow. Let's see if I can hold this up so you can see it. So the dotted line only goes to about right here, but if you keep following down and you line that up with your photo or whatever you're trying to mat, then you should be able to get an even border around the entire picture. Okay, so my next tip for you guys is don't glue the entire picture down onto the cardstock. You want to just put some adhesive into the center, and I usually put about that much. Let me see if you can see that. I put about that much adhesive. I use my ATG gun, and I'm going to, and if you want to, you can add more. I don't think it's really necessary, but sometimes if you want to glue it down, I would just, after I've created the mat, just put some liquid glue along the edges there. I don't take it off the mat because that kind of defeats the purpose of having, the perfect mat. If you take the picture off the mat to add more adhesive, and then you have to line it back up to get it on there even, that's a challenge for me anyway. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead, and you can even have it crooked. You don't even have to have it lined up straight. I'm going to put it on there a little bit straighter though, because I don't have much room to work with here with this particular scrap of paper. Okay, now for me, I like to start with whatever part of the paper is like a big piece, because I'm going to show y'all another little tip. Okay, so we're going to take the layering guide with the measurement that we want, and I'm just going to put it on top of the picture and kind of slide it over until it catches, and you can kind of feel it catch. So once it catches, you want to kind of have a firm grip on the ruler with your hand. And then I'm going to take the blade, and you can use any kind of X-Acto knife or craft blade. I just like to use this one, and I think you're supposed to use it something like this, but I like to hold it like this, and I feel like I have very good control over it. To me, this one's a lot easier than using this one, which is much bigger. And so I really do love this little craft knife. And this is a Fiskars brand. And all the tools that I'm using in this video, I will put a link in the description below to each one of these tools, the layering guides and the blades that I'm using and other things. So if you want to find the different tools, you can just go there to the description of this video and I will have links. Okay, so we're going to hold it and we're going to put some firm pressure there, because you don't want this guide to move, especially since as you push down, you're going to be pushing against the edge of the guide. If you don't have a firm grip on it, it's going to make your guide, move. Okay, then we want to make sure that we have our blade right up against the edge of the guide, and then you're just going to go along the edge like this. Now what I like to do is I will just grab hold of the paper with the tip of my blade and try to move it. And if it pulls away, then I know I don't have to cut it again. But if it doesn't pull away, then I'll just make another cut lightly. And I found that if you press really hard, sometimes that doesn't work very well. It actually works better as you're using this layering guide is if you just go over it lightly multiple times. So I will swing this around, rotate the picture, and then we're going to put it on the next side, and I'm just going to take and lightly press down, and I'm not putting too much pressure, but you can see how it comes away from the picture, and that's why you know you're cutting all the way through. Another thing is that you really want to make sure that you have a sharp blade. If you're using a blade that's kind of dull, that's going to make it more difficult because you're going to have trouble cutting through the cardstock. And then also, the thicker the cardstock, you may have to make several passes to cut through the entire cardstock. Now here I can feel that my layering guide is not catching on the edge of the picture. So if that happens, I'm going to show you what to do. You want to, now this is why you don't want to glue your entire picture down. If it's not catching on the edge of your picture, you just want to take your picture and just kind of do this to make the picture kind of stick off the cardstock, and then you're going to try it again. And usually if you do that, it'll just make the picture raised up enough that the catch lip actually catches on to your picture. Okay, now you can see here I cut into it and it's still not moving, and so I'm just going to do it again. There we go. And this guide is plastic, so you do have to be careful about cutting into the guide. And if you look at mine, I don't know if you can see that or not, but I've actually accidentally cut into the guide quite a bit. But there is a metal edge here as well. So you do, you really do have that metal edge all the way around or all the way down the guide. But this ruler is plastic, and you can see here I actually lost my grip on the knife and cut into my ruler up here. So that is possible that you can, you want to be careful to go along the guide and not cut into the guide. And really the only thing that you're really going to damage is your blade. It's going to make your blade duller faster if you cut into the plastic of the ruler. Okay, so we have one more edge that we're going to do. I'm going to move the picture around again, and then I'm going to catch this onto the side of the picture, and I'm having trouble again. So I'm just going to lift this up like that, and then try it again. And then we're going to do this, and you can see it moves, so that way I know I don't have to cut into it again. And I do like doing that, just trying to pull the paper away with the tip of the blade, it really does help, because if you don't quite have this cut completely, it kind of shows you where you still need to cut if you do that. Okay, so here you can see that we have a perfectly matted picture with a 1/8 inch border all the way around. So I just love these layering guides. I think they're so awesome. Now, like anything, it does require some practice, and the more that you practice and the more that you use them, the easier it's going to get. And the hardest thing, I think, for me when I was first trying to figure out how to use these guides was really frustrating not being able to catch the guide onto my picture. And so I think only gluing the picture down in the middle and being able to lift it up all the way around as you're cutting the mat really does help. The second thing that I really had a problem with is the amount of pressure to use. I think at first I was applying way too much pressure as I was doing this, and I wasn't having as much success, and I wasn't getting as good of results. But when I started doing multiple passes with it, it really did start becoming easier. So I would definitely suggest doing firm pressure and just lightly scoring into the paper and doing it multiple times. And you can just do it once and just try to pull the paper away to see if it cut all the way through. But if it doesn't, you still have your ruler there, and you can just go ahead and lightly cut into it again. Okay, so let's take this picture and do another mat, because we can do as many mats as you would like. And I have some paper over here, some scraps. So let me just grab this one. Grab this one here, and I like this stripe that's on the back. And so we'll just do maybe, let's see how big that is. We can do a, what size do we want to do? Okay, we could do 1/4 of an inch, but I think I want something a little bit bigger to show off that stripe. And that might be too big. Let's do a 3/8 of an inch. Yeah, I think that would be a good size. So I'm going to use this 3/8 inch size. Now, one of the things about doing this now with the picture that has a mat is that when you catch the side of the picture, you need to, or let me see if I can rephrase this. You can either catch the side of the picture and do a 3/8 inch from the side of the picture here, or you can catch the side of the mat and do the 3/8 from there. And just you need to, as you're going around all 4 sides, just make sure that whatever you're catching it on, you do it the same on all 4 sides. So if you're going to catch it on the photo, you need to do the photo and make sure you have that catch lip on the photo on all 4 sides. I'm actually going to do 3/8 inch from this border, or from the mat. So I'm going to make sure that when I catch the guide, that I'm catching it on this edge. So let's go ahead and just add some adhesive here, just in the middle. And then when you're doing this with pattern paper, you do have to make sure that you have it somewhat even, because it does have a pattern there. If you're doing it on plain cardstock, you can put it any which way. But I think for this one, I do need to make sure that I leave enough space all the way around so I can make the size mat that I want. And I'm going to try to line it up at least a little bit so that the pattern is going in the direction that I want it to go in, and it's fairly even. Okay, so once we have that, let's go ahead and take our 3/8 inch, and I'm going to start, instead of doing this, because I have this huge piece of pattern paper going this way, I'm going to start off by cutting this way. And I can get rid of all this excess cardstock. So let's start with that side. Okay, now we're going to catch onto that, and it's not catching, so I can just pull this whole thing up and lift it up. And then it's still not catching. And sometimes you just have more trouble than other times. Okay, so now it's catching. So I'm just going to go ahead and put my blade against the guide, and then I'm going to cut, and see, that came right away, so I can just do it one time. Okay, let's try this side. Now it's catching onto my picture, which I don't want, because I actually caught onto the mat over here. I want to make sure I get the mat on all 4 sides. So I'm just going to pull that up, and I caught it there. Let's see. Yep. And you can visually kind of see, not only can you feel it when you really do catch it onto the side of the mat or the picture, you can visually see that line. And I usually do like to take a look at it just to make sure I really do have it caught on the right place. Okay, we're going to go ahead and just lightly cut into that, and then that piece will come away. And I think I just recently changed my blade, so it is really cutting easily into this paper, and I'm not even having to cut it multiple times. Okay, I'm going to go around this side, and I'm having trouble again with it, so I'm going to just lift it up. Now here it's still not doing it, so I'm just going to go ahead and visually line it up with that dotted line, and it works just as well. I'm not going to fight it. I'm just going to go ahead, and you can see that I still got a very even mat. I just used a visual reference instead of having it catch onto the mat. Okay, and then this one, and then it's funny to me sometimes, because this is pretty thick cardstock, that I'm having more trouble cutting around the cardstock than I did around this thinner picture. But I'm not exactly sure why. Sometimes it catches really easily, and then other times it doesn't. But I just kind of work with it as I need to. Okay, and then you can see here I have this picture matted, and if you have something that looks off, like this corner right here kind of looks off a little bit to me, you can always go double check it by putting the ruler back on there. And one of the nice things about this is you can even take off little bitty pieces. I'm going to show you how little that piece was that I took off. So let's see if I can show you. So that's how off it was. It was just slightly off. And try doing that with a paper trimmer. And I don't know, there's something about me, I can see visual imperfections. And so when I see something that looks wrong, I can notice it. And so when something is even slightly off, it kind of catches my eye. So you can really fine tune the mat with the guide by going back over any little places that you had that maybe you kind of had your ruler slightly off. Now you can't really do that if you cut into the mat, and so that's something that sometimes I've had to start over. Sometimes I will just make a smaller mat if I mess up. Other times you can just take this picture off and just put it onto another piece of paper and do it again. Okay, so let me share with you something else that you can do. So if you have Project Life cards, or these little 3x4 cards, you can actually create layers behind these cards, even the ones with the rounded corners. And to do that, you're just going to take the card, and we'll just go ahead. I have another one here, and I have some scrap pieces of paper here that are pink. And you do it kind of the same way. We're just going to add some adhesive to the middle. And one of the nice things about this is you could use any piece of scrap paper, and it could be any shape, because it doesn't matter. I'm going to put it on here crooked just so you can see. This is a very thin piece of paper. That's just a scrap that I have, and I don't really mind wasting it. I'm just going to do this just so you can see. You can use any piece of paper at all, any shape, any size, and you don't have to put the picture on there, or the whatever you're trying to mat. It doesn't have to be on there straight. The only time you really need to worry about it is if you're working with a pattern, because you do want the pattern to kind of, you know, maybe go in a certain direction, or you want it to line up. You do have to make sure that when you're using a pattern that you do put the picture on there straight. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing, and I think this time I'm going to do a 1/8 inch border around this. So let's go ahead and we'll do this. And somebody told me in one of my in a comment in one of my videos that I made it look super easy. And one thing to keep in mind if you watch my scrapbook process videos is that when I do the voiceovers and I'm doing the actual process, I do have it, it's 4 times the speed. So it's very fast. So I don't really do it that fast. And I do take time to do it. So you know, I'm not really that quick with it. Okay. Just wanted to mention that because I don't think I've ever mentioned anywhere that how fast I speed those videos up. But I'm a really slow scrapbooker, and so I really do, I am really slow. So if you were to watch me like real time, yeah, it would be like watching paint dry. Okay. We're just going to go around all four sides. And it's not catching on there at all, but I'm just going to line it up with the mark on the guide because I can kind of see it there. Sometimes it's just easier just to line it up with the mark. Now I can see that I am off right here, and I'm just going to go ahead and see if I can fix that. Let's see. Yeah, see, you can see here, I don't know if you can see that, but I am off quite a bit on this one, and because I was using the visual, so usually I do better, but I didn't want to get my head in the camera. So. Okay, so that's much better. So once you have this cut, you also need a corner rounder to do this. So I'm just going to take this corner rounder, and this is one of the best corner rounders I've ever used. My friend found this on, my friend Judy found this on Amazon, and it's from Catamaro. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but here is the brand right here. And I'll put a link in the description below to this particular, here we go. So this one is really cool. It has 3 different measurements. It has a large, a medium, and a small. And I think it's one of the best corner rounders I've ever used. And I really like it a lot. So it's super easy to use. It catches all of the corners inside the bottom. And let's see if I can put this in there. And you're just going to go all the way around, and then you have your mat with the rounded corners. So I think it's really cute if you do a lot of card making or even scrapbooking, but especially card making, and you want to use these Project Life cards. It makes them look a little bit more special if you add layers behind them and you pop it up on some foam tape, and that would be really cute on the front of a card. And I just think that saying in the little teacup is adorable. You are my cup of tea. Okay, so that's kind of what you can do with these layering guides. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to share with you guys. If y'all have any questions at all, please leave a comment on this video and I will try to answer them the best that I can. I think that the most important thing to keep in mind is that when you're learning something new and you're using a new tool for the first time, that you really do have to have some patience and just try to work with it. So maybe take some scrap pieces of paper and some old photos or just some embellishments or some Project Life cards or whatever you have in your craft room and just play with it. And don't try to use it on your scrapbook layout. Try to learn how to use it first by you know, playing with it. Maybe make some embellishments and just map some photos and just kind of maybe spend some time just using it, because the more you use it, it does really get easier. And now it's almost like I don't even have to think about it. I just pick my measurement, I just get out my tools and I just do it, and I don't have nearly as much problems as I did when I first started. But I just love this tool. This is like my favorite. I think this is probably my favorite tool for scrapbooking are these layering guides, because I am really challenged when it comes to using a paper trimmer. If I'm using a paper trimmer to do this and I try to trim it, I just usually will end up cutting too much off and then having to start over or cutting it crooked. It's not a good thing. So I just love these things. So I actually have 2 sets of these. I did get a second set just because I loved it so much. And so I have one in my travel bag and then one in my tool cart, my tool cart. And I have it with me no matter where I am because I use it that much. Okay, so I think that's all I have for you for this video. And I hope that I've helped you with trying to learn how to use these layering guides. But Be sure to leave a comment if you have any questions at all, and I'll try to get back to you within a day. I usually try to respond to all my comments within a day. It could be a couple of days, but most of the time it'll be less than a day. So if there's any other tool in my craft room that you see me using in my videos and you'd like to know how to use it, or you have a question, just go ahead and ask, and I will see if I can do a video on that. So I hope y'all have an awesome week, and I guess I will see you next time. Bye now. Miss B, are you taking a nap? Bella, what you doing? Bella, are you snoozing? What you doing, duty? Did I wake you up? Oh, you don't usually sleep on the floor. You usually sleep in your bed. No, you must be tired. Are you tired? You look comfortable. Are you gonna come see me? No? You can go back and take your nap? Okay, I'll leave you alone. Go back to sleep. That belly is just too cute. I gotta come over there and give it a rub. Can I come rub your belly? Nope. No! You're not gonna let me rub it? Come see. Come, sweetie, sweetie pie. Hi, sweetie pie. What you doing, huh? There's Lily Bell. Hi, Lily Bell. What you doing, huh? Are y'all being good? Are you having a lazy day? Say we haven't been out of the house in a while. I know, we can't go to the park. Guess we could go to the park if there was no people there. We could drive by and see. Maybe we should do that. I'd like to get out of the house. Yep, I would like to get out of the house. If it's pretty today, maybe we'll go do that later. Would y'all like to go? Y'all look depressed. I think we need to go and do something one day soon. Okay, well, I'm going to let you get back to your nap, Miss B.